monsters, madness, and magic.
All right, folks. Welcome to the Monsters, Madness, and Magic podcast. I'm your host, Justin, here with a quick word before we dive in. Now, in this episode, I chat with actor and comedian Theresa Tilly about the good and bad of filming The Evil Dead, horror conventions, improv, continuing her career behind the microphone, and more. As always, thank you all for listening out there, and without further ado, here you go. Well, Theresa, take us back in time. You're a youngster. Were you a book reader, fort builder, troublemaker, or all of the above?
I did build forts. We loved building forts, and we built them out of snow because I lived in Michigan, and we built snow forts. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, those were good days in the Detroit city. And what else was that? What was the other thing? Oh, and I did like to read too. I used to sneak Nancy Drew books under my blanket at night. My sister and I slept up in the attic. It was sort of a bedroom, but they never really finished it. So it was kind of scary too, because there were like mice sometimes that would crawl around. But we would we would hide our books because we were supposed to be sleeping, and we'd read our books under the cover with a flashlight. And I was a big Nancy Drew fan when I was young.
See, I read some Nancy Drew too myself, but I was also, I can't turn my camera because they're behind me over here. Well, behind my computer. I love the Hardy Boys.
Oh yeah, same idea. Yeah. Yeah, I that really got me into reading. Well, my mother used to read to us too when we were little, but it was always the same book about God. And we finally got into, something else as we got older. I mean, it was beautiful just to read.
Yeah.
So,
Are you still a reader?
yes, I've got three books going right now. Maybe four, no, three. Yeah, no, I love to read, but it's hard because there's so many things that you want to do. There's so many TV shows.
Oh, yes, God. So many streaming services.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's fun to do with, my husband and I. We like to watch soccer. We watch the Premier League and the Championship League and all that. So by the time we get done watching the soccer games and then the most popular streaming thing, it's like 9:30, and and I start reading.
Yeah. So are you more of a physical book collector, or do you like to read on like a Kindle or e-reader or anything like that?
Wow, you're getting down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I'm a nerd.
I love to have books, but I am recently looking at my book collection and starting to purge because it's just taking up too much space. And and also when you travel, it's really nice to just have it all on your computer, and you can read. Yeah, I'm on Kindle, so I've got my three different, sometimes four different books that I can just, go between. So yeah, I've had to go to Kindle.
Yeah.
Mo-
Now, do you have a preferred writer or genre that you lean towards?
Um, well, right now I'm reading George Eliot's Middlemarch. So I like the classics.
Mm.
More so, I think, than anything. But then I'm also reading like current, like Ezra Klein's book. He just wrote a book about the state of our country. So yeah, I kind of but for fiction, I would say I'm into the classics.
Okay. So, born and raised in Detroit, you spend the majority of your childhood there?
Yes, I did. I grew up in the east side of Detroit, and it was kind of a cool place to grow up in. We lived in like a little area very close to the Detroit River, and I used to deliver papers down with my brother on a bike. We both rode bikes, and we'd end at the river and we'd cut lawns for people who lived on the canal. I mean, it was a cool place to grow up. And then we had the riots and we had to move because
Mm,
it got very um, dangerous.
yeah.
We just had, yeah.
Now, are you
So we moved to the suburbs.
okay? Are you still in Michigan, Detroit area?
No, Los Angeles. I've
Okay.
lived here longer than I was in Michigan. So I guess I'm a native here now.
Mm. So, would you say that either of your parents or maybe someone in your family that was close to you were artistically, creatively inclined? Do you think that's where your roots came from?
Um, I have a whole psychological theory about why I went into acting, but I'm not going to get into that.
Okay.
Um, it's too weird. But my brother's a musician, and he's an incredible musician. He can just play from ear. My brother Frank, and I couldn't do anything with music. We both studied with the church organist, and he came away playing jazz and classical, and I could play barely, Happy Birthday. So I don't really know where I know my grandfather was very funny and entertaining. He used to make me laugh all the time. And I feel like I got a lot of him, my grandpa Seaforth
Mm.
in me, but I don't know.
So, when you think back to formative films and TV shows you grew up on, what comes to your head?
Um, well, we were very limited. My mom was really strict. We watched the what was Annette Funicello? It was some the Mickey Mouse Club when we were growing up, and Mighty Mouse. I loved Mighty Mouse. It was a cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird. Oh, I liked Gidget, the Flying Nun. And then we could watch the Hallmark. Was it Hallmark? I think it was something different back then. But once every like 6 months, they'd have a special like Peter Pan or some classic not Mary Poppins, that was much later. But yeah, so we'd look for Shirley Temple. I love
Mm.
Shirley Temple. Um, yeah, we weren't allowed, we had one TV and seven kids, and we weren't allowed to watch a lot of TV. And I feel like now that my creativity came from not watching TV, but from having to invent things outside and with my friends. I mean, we always were putting on shows in somebody's garage or up in our attic. We had this closet with giant curtains because there weren't doors yet up in the attic. And we put on shows, behind the clothes. We'd open the clothes and we'd do like, a lot of entertaining among ourselves, the kids.
Mm.
So I feel like the fact that I didn't have television to inspire me, I was inspired by, you know, having to create my own thing.
Would you classify yourself as a theater kid growing up? Did you do any plays in high school or anything like that?
Yes, I did. Well, we did plays all the time just in our neighborhood, which I pretty much produced. I was very much into it. And as I got in, and then we always had Christmas plays at school. It was a very small little Catholic enclave, and I was like the angel or, something like that. Those were the plays we did, but we did have a lot of plays that came into the school, sort of semi-professional, and I used to go watch them, and it was, like South Pacific or these great musicals. But by the time I got to high school, I was in theater and doing plays. And that was really my happy spot once I discovered that. I went to three different high schools. So it was always challenging to have friends,
Yeah.
basically. But once I got in theater and, I just couldn't, I loved it. I love getting on stage and the laughs, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Did you ever have to deal with stage fright, or were you just naturally comfortable?
Oh, I still deal with it, but I don't, it doesn't overwhelm me
Mm-hmm.
to the point. But I mean, recently I was in some kind of a theater thing, and I did get the theater was, it's like if you're not really, really focused, you get fearful. But if you're really focused, um, I didn't get afraid. I wasn't afraid. But I
Mm.
had moments, believe me, of stage fright, terrible episodes where, well, here's an example. I was in a dinner theater, and at the last minute, I was the lighting person. I was the new person. They weren't sure of my acting yet. So they had me on lights. And a couple nights before the show, they lost one of their actresses who was doing a French maid. And they asked if I could do it. And I said, sure. Stupidly, I didn't know French. I didn't know what she was saying. And I just thought, oh, I can do this. And I got up there on the night of the show and I completely forgot the French. And I forgot everything. And I was just doing gibberish. And I I I never worked for that theater company. And I did get scared. It was very scary.
So, what about your very first time on stage as an actor? Did it go smoothly? Any shenanigans?
Shenanigans. Always shenanigans. Well, I did uh yeah, I don't remember any shenanigans. I just remember having a good old time. It was a one of those I wish I could think of the name of it. See How They Run. So it was a really broad comedy. You just People were coming in and out of doors. You didn't know who was going to come out next. And so I just had a good time. I just couldn't wait till the next night to do it again.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, just sticking with your childhood for a bit, which records were spinning around the house when you were growing up?
Well, they were only singles. We couldn't afford albums. And people probably don't even know what that is now. They were singles. Yeah. So we have a joke in our family. We always played the Four Seasons Dawn. I don't know if you have ever heard of it. Dawn.
I haven't.
Don't ask me to sing it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I will sing it. I can't sing it very well, but it was my brother's favorite song. And we used to play it. We had a little like stereo thing in the basement, and we would play this single over and over. You've heard of the Four Seasons,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I have. Yeah, I probably know the song, and it's just, you know, probably just don't
Yeah.
know it off the top of
All
my
right, I'll
head.
give you a little bit of it. As bad as I sing, don't go away, you're no good for me.
Okay, I got you. I'm with you now.
They did a play about the Four Seasons and they sang that song in it recently. Like, yeah, so that was one of the songs. And then of course the Beatles and the Beatles, I was like in the fourth, fifth grade when they were on Ed Sullivan, and oh my God, we were insane over the Beatles. So yesterday, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those are the music things that we grew. And of course, Detroit had Motown. So by the time I got into high school, I was doing the Pony and all these songs that were from Detroit. It was it was soul music. I'm gonna tell you.
Now I know at some point that you joined the Second City. Where does your relationship with comedy start? Were you always doing improv and stand up and stuff?
Um, well, it's funny you should ask. I was inspired to do comedy after I made The Evil Dead.
Well, there's some comedy aspects in the Evil Dead.
Yes, there are. Yes,
Hmm.
there are. seriously though, I mean, I don't want to, have sour grapes, but after I made that movie, I had already had some comedy clubs were everywhere at the time. I mean, they were like on McDonald's, every corner. And I had gone to see a lot of comedy shows. I had not done it though. I had just seen a lot and really loved it. And so then I made The Evil Dead, and it was so horrible. I decided I'm never going to make any more movies. I'm going to do stand up. That's how I got into comedy because,
Wow.
yeah, I did not want to ever do another movie again. It's kind of like having a baby.
Yeah.
You know, you have it, you think, oh, I'm never going to do this again. And then you have another one after you forget.
So was The Evil Dead your very first time acting in a film?
It was, yes, it was. Yes, it was. Mhm. Yeah.
So, so what was the process of, was there an audition, anything like that, or did you get reached out to? How'd that go?
Yeah, well, they did. I was in the theater I was in different theater programs in Detroit area. And so people, I guess Sam and the boys from Evil Dead were looking at different theater companies and got my picture and my resume. And they contacted my agent, and they my agent contacted me, and it was a very weird audition. I mean, I had been auditioning for things like commercials, and they're called industrials in Detroit. So you go and they hire someone who can walk into a film and maybe get in a car and turn it on. Those are called industrials. You talk about the car. And that's mainly what you did in the Detroit area, are those kinds of projects. There were no feature films being made, even independent films. So my agents got in touch with me. I got a call to go to Sam Raimi's house, which was very weird and and made me very insecure. Like, I don't know about going to somebody's house, but I'm young, so I thought, oh, well, okay, I can do this. So his mom answers the door and has me go downstairs into their basement where they have, like, it's like a family, you know, card table and chairs, and it's just different, weird. Like, what is this? But they were nice, very nice people. His mom was very nice. And that was the audition. I went downstairs, and he had me sit next to the guy who uh, became my boyfriend in the movie, Hal Delrich. And he just had me read a few lines. And I didn't have the script or anything. He just handed it to me. No, he didn't even hand it. He said, say this line. Um, and then I would say it. And then the main thing though that he really focused on was screaming, and how I could scream in different positions. It was weird. And by the time I left, he had said, do you want to do this movie? And I go, yeah, okay, sounds good. So that was it.
Yeah, and The Evil Dead itself is a pretty groundbreaking movie in the genre. When you do read the script, what's going through your head? Like, what's your reaction to reading it for the first time?
Well, people think that, you're when we read it, that there was all the things that you saw in the movie, but there were not. Um there was no explanation about monsters being out, or any kind of um possession out there in the woods. They just said the woods possess Ellen, but we didn't know that that meant they were going to rape her.
Yeah.
Or that was not in the script. They didn't say that you had to take your top off. That was not in the script. It was just kind of a silly little, you know, um, oh, we're going to a cabin on vacation and we're gonna have fun. And then there's some tape that gets played, and then there's possession. I mean, it was really sketchy.
Mm-hmm.
None of the things, very little of what you saw in the movie was in the script. So I wasn't fearful at all.
And you said earlier that the Evil Dead made you want to seek out comedy and you really didn't want to do films anymore. Would you say that it was the experience just a bit much? Did you not enjoy making it?
Well, I would say I enjoyed it on some level, but it was a bit much.
Mm.
I didn't really, I really had, I guess I had a romantic expectation of what it would be like. At first it was just fun because it was a bunch of kids. We got in a van and drove down to Tennessee from Michigan, and I thought, wow, this is really cool.
Mm.
And and then we all stayed in the same house, and then when like the reality of it unfolded, like we're in a very tight quarters. The three women are girls, whatever. We were all sleeping in the same room. One of us has a cot. We have to change the cots because it gets old. Someone gets the bed 1 week, someone gets the cot 1 week. Um, then the whole shooting scenario was, um, you know, like you shoot at night, they wake you up in the middle of the night. It's cold, much colder than anybody, including the directors and everything, thought it would be. Like it's notoriously, uh, not notoriously, it's famous that we were supposed to shoot in Michigan, but because it was supposed to be too cold in Michigan by the time they got their things together to shoot, they decided to go south. Well, it was the coldest year in Tennessee that they'd ever seen and the warmest year in Michigan.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was the situation. So it was really cold. We weren't prepared for that. Nobody was. And we were kids. I mean, Sam was 21. No, he was 19. I think he was 19.
That's
And
wild to just think about.
yeah, yeah, there was no adults there. I was the adult. I think I was one of the oldest people, like at 25. So yeah, that part, and things were just, it wasn't super coordinated. And so, I'm a little snob from the suburbs, come to this place and wow, there's no coffee. So for that part, it was stressful.
Yeah. So with all that being said, and like you said, not very coordinated, all the moving pieces, all you guys are very young. Were you shocked by the reception? Like, what was your impression of seeing the final product for the first time?
Well, I brought my parents, which was a mistake.
Ugh, yeah, yeah.
I had no idea, honestly. We didn't know that Ella was going to get raped. That was the big deal. Like, oh my God. And I mean, because we shot it. I was there the night we shot it, and in post they they had the pole go the opposite way. So it was just really weird. Like,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you, there was one good thing about it. I mean, there were a lot of good things. Honestly, it was cool. Um, People stood up in the theater and they were yelling at the actors and telling them not to go out there. Don't go out there. No, don't do. And there was a visceral thing going on between the audience and the movie. I had never seen anything like that. It was, and that part was very moving. And I was really grateful to be part of something like that. Um, yeah, to experience it. And then the other stuff, I was always in trouble anyway. So making this movie was just like, you know, everyone figured I'd do something like this.
And it just like from my perspective growing up, I was raised by my grandparents, and oddly enough, my grandmother loved horror movies. And The first time I ever watched Evil Dead was on an old, VCR, had the old VHS, and it just it terrified the shit out of me. And I mean that's the point of the movie. So just to tell you while I'm talking to you, I mean, did a good job.
Thank you. How old were you?
We're really, really young. Probably six. Yeah.
Too, too young. Well, you didn't get a lot of the innuendo, probably.
No, I
Like,
didn't. I was just more of the gore and the demons. It
right,
was more than enough for 6-year-old me.
right.
But it wasn't my first horror movie. I'd watched horror movies since, as far as I can remember. But that one, that was definitely the one that got me.
Really? Oh
Yeah.
my God. Huh, that's funny. Well, did you find it funny at all as a kid?
Not as a kid, but, I've watched it throughout my whole life. And, the older I got, the more hilarious it was, too, sometimes. And
Yeah.
and I think the series got funnier as the movies went on, too.
Yes, it was campy. I mean, that part I grew to appreciate. I did not understand that when the first time I saw it, or even, a few years later, I did not understand the campiness of it. I just thought it was really bad acting. And that was embarrassing. Betsy and I and Ellen too, we will tell you, we didn't put it on our resume. We were embarrassed.
Wow.
Yeah. For many reasons, but one of them was, wow, this acting is really bad. But it was intentional, and we didn't know that.
Yeah. And yeah, the campiness is part of it. And
Hmm.
Bruce is great, but he made a legendary career out of that. That style, and kind of the Evil Dead sort of launched him.
Well, I would say it opposite. I would say Bruce launched Evil Dead.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, 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 yeah.
He was already like the shtick guy of his high school. I'm sure you've heard stories. He was the guy you'd walk down the hall and he'd slip on a banana peel, literally. Ellen tells stories of it because they all went to high school together. Ellen, Bruce, and Sam. They were in the same high school. And he was the campy guy. So he kind of inspired, probably. I mean, I can only imagine Sam.
Yeah. And it's also crazy to think 19-year-old Sam Raimi making Evil Dead, and then 30 plus years later he's making, these multi-million-dollar Doctor Strange for Disney and all this stuff.
Oh yeah. Well,
Stuff.
we got invited to be in Oz, the Great and the Powerful.
I didn't know
Okay, good. I'm
that.
telling you something you don't know because there's so much that everybody knows already. Yeah, no, it was the coolest thing, I gotta tell you. Um, to see Sam, like you're saying, we knew him as this 19-year-old, you know, teenager making a movie, and then what is it, 20, 30 years later? And I kind of emailed him and said, hey, I'm going to be in Michigan. My family would love to see Oz, the great, see the production of it if you can let us, I have a bunch of nieces and nephews. So he invited us to come and we saw it, and we got to see like some of the movie stars, Mila Kunis and Michelle Williams and uh, what's his name, the all of them. So then I go home and somebody calls or something, I can't remember, but he says, hey, you want to do a little part in it? And I'm like, and so going back there and sitting on that set with Sam Raimi and hundreds of people bowing down to him and asking him, Mr. Raimi, what about this? It was like so surreal, so surreal.
Wow. So, how far after Evil Dead comes out, the release and whatnot, did you realize just how big of a deal it was? Was it when you started doing conventions?
Oh, yes, it was very funny. We did not. Oh, so Betsy and I live in LA for many years, 20 years at least, maybe 30, yeah, 20 some years. And Rob Tapert, we end up seeing Evil Dead. We get invited to do an interview at a big theater here in LA called American Cinematique. And they want us to do a Q&A after they show the movie. And it's one of the premier theaters here for classic movies. It's Halloween night. I'm really hesitant to leave my daughter to my husband to go out trick-or-treating, same as her, but we did it. Rob Tapert is there. We're watching Evil Dead on the big screen. The place is completely packed. And he whispers in our ear, hey, Teresa, hey, Betsy, have you guys heard about conventions? And we're like, no, we don't even have this on our resume. Leave us alone. And he goes, yeah, it's a really big thing. And so we investigate, Betsy and I, and we found out that there is a thing and people want to meet you. So we call Ellen. We find Ellen. We didn't have her number. We hadn't really talked to her, but we found her. We located her, and we had a come to Jesus meeting, the three of us. She came to my house in LA. She was still in Detroit, and we talked about our feelings about making the movie and how terrible it was and how wonderful it was. And, we just really shared our experience with each other because we hadn't done that. We hadn't seen each other since the movie. And we decided, you know what? People are out there making money doing this and they're meeting their fan. People like this movie. Let's go and meet them. So we said, well, we're not going to do it alone. We'll do it with each other. And that's how we came up with this idea. We'll go as a group, but we need to call ourselves something. And we came up with the Ladies of the Evil Dead. And it was cool. Like we all started like calling these conventions and saying, hey, the three of us, the Ladies of the Evil Dead, we want to come. And it was like really easy. People wanted to meet us.
Yeah,
So
real easy.
it was really easy, but complicated in the sense that we had to get airfare.
Yeah.
We had to figure out, the logistics of doing this. But it was fun for the first 20. So that was in like 2001 or something. Yeah, it was like the beginning of so 25 years ago.
Yeah, that just goes to show you just never know what something will become because you obviously you know now, but spawn multiple movies, series. They're still making Evil Dead movies. It's probably just wild for you guys to see in retrospect.
It is pretty wild. We still really pinch ourselves. We can't believe it, really. We really can't.
So those cold Tennessee nights paid off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we would have preferred residuals, but
Yeah, yeah.
you know, instead we have to go out. But it's been a lot of fun, I got to tell you. There's something really precious and sweet and endearing about hearing everybody's Evil Dead first time, and families tell us how they, do it, how they all watched it together, and couples, and it's just amazing. I can't even believe it, really.
And the Evil Dead is one of those pillar movies in the genre because it's just like people know the first time they saw The Exorcist. People know the first time they saw The Evil Dead and Jaws and things like that. It's one of those movies.
I think it is. I
Hmm.
mean, I have to say, people who are like you're saying, remember the first time. I'm not like that. I don't remember things like that. They're very different film oriented people, and it's interesting to see that I just am not like that. Like if you ask me when I saw, you know, I only see a movie once. Like people who see Evil Dead and come to these conventions, oh, they've seen it many, many, many times. And I learn a lot from them because I just can barely get through a movie once. I mean, if I do get through it once, I enjoy it, but I'm not tempted to watch it again often like they are.
Now, did you have any experience in the horror genre at all growing up? Did you watch horror movies, or was Evil Dead your
No.
first throw into it?
I went to a seminary college.
Okay.
I did not even know what horror was.
Yeah.
I did see Psycho, but it was not till I was in my 30s. Really. I don't know. I was very, what, protected? I don't know. I don't know how to describe it.
So forgive me for not knowing this, but were were you also in the makeup for the Deadite Shelley, or was there another
Yes.
Okay.
No, that was me.
Okay.
There was a scene where they had already sent me home and they wanted to add one piece, one, I don't know, clip that I wasn't there to do. So they had my mask and my costume, and they had Rob's sister. They dressed her up and they pulled her out of the fire. But I had already been pulled out like 10 times. So I don't know what was missing for them, and they needed one more shot. But no, I did all that. And I swear to God, that's why I didn't want to ever do a movie again, because, I was nailed under the floor with blind and goop on my face. And I didn't, that wasn't my idea of making a movie. It just wasn't.
We've been talking about it, and obviously you said it had its ups and downs, but was there ever a point during filming where you were close to, like, I'm done. I don't this is what are we doing?
I'm not a quitter. I wish I had more, like, okay, this is enough, I'm leaving. I don't do that. I stay till the very, very end. And no, I'm gonna finish this no matter what. So no, I never got to that point. I thought about how I just didn't like it, but I wouldn't think of leaving.
Mm. I don't know if you know this, but the house itself stood for many years, I think, and people still visit the location to this day, and the house is pretty much gone. People have, like, taken all the wood and
Oh yeah,
as souvenirs.
believe me, I know this, Justin, and I'll tell you why. Because they bring things for me to sign. And I say to them, come on, this is not from that cabin. Really, you really want, I'll sign it, but it's like bricks and pieces from the fireplace, and I don't know what all. I don't know. I'd like to go back myself someday and just kind of see the place.
There's still some remnants out there, some splinters of wood on the floor. I mean, the ground.
Really?
Yeah, there is.
Are you from that area
I'm
near
in
there?
I'm in South Carolina, so I'm not too far.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Have you been?
I haven't, but if I'm ever in Tennessee, it's on my list.
You'll do. I don't think there's much to see. And from what I've heard too, from, people who have gone, is that the people who own the property aren't that happy about trespassers.
No, you
Yeah.
definitely would have to ask permission. There's my buddy Sean Clark. He does a lot of
Oh, I know Sean.
yeah, he does convention bookings and stuff. He has
Yeah.
he recently he did a whole video because he does the horror's hallowed grounds where he visits filming locations,
Oh no, I didn't know that. Yeah.
and he did Evil Dead recently.
Oh, you
So
did it recently?
yeah, it may have been in the last year or so, something like that.
Oh my God.
I'll send you the video. I'll email you the video after
I
we get
would
off
love
here
to see it. Oh my God.
because he does a great job. He's great at what he
Oh,
does.
I've never, I just see him at these shows. I've never really I really didn't know what he did. I just thought he was like a rep or something.
He is, but he's got his hand in many hats.
Yeah, huh. That's interesting.
So I have to ask you, moving on from Evil Dead, you worked now. Even though in your bio it says the show didn't premiere, I have to ask you about working with Steve Allen.
You know what? You just dropped out there for a second.
Oh, sorry, it's you the sketch comedy pilot. There was a sketch comedy pilot you worked on. Now it didn't go to air, but you worked with Steve Allen, and I wanted to ask you about that.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, yeah. Well, that was in Chicago. Yeah, I was doing stand up at the time after Evil Dead. I decided I was gonna do never go back and do a movie. I was gonna control my environment. And so I was doing sketch with another woman, and then she quit. So I started doing it myself. I really hadn't intended to do stand up, but I wanted to keep doing it, so I ended up alone. But I had a boyfriend, very nice guy. I still keep in touch with him, Mark Kornhauser. He was a magician, comedy magic act, and he helped me put together like a good 10 minutes, they say in the biz, or a good 15. And I was opening for a lot of guys like Tim Allen and Dave Coulier and Bob Saget, bless his heart, and Gary Shandling. I was doing a lot of opening acts, and I ended up getting booked in Chicago, and I started doing the classes for Second City with Del Close, who was a famous improv teacher in Second City. And he's long been gone, but uh so while I was there, I started doing the clubs in Chicago too. And it was great. I did the Comedy Womb and I did Zanies, and I ended up getting an agent and booking this pilot. And it was kind of like I don't remember if Saturday Night Live was even in existence. So Saturday Night Live just celebrated 50 years. So it probably was, 'cause I don't think it was that long ago. But it was like a show similar to that. It wasn't the same. And Steve Allen was the host. And I was hired to do the hostessing, but I never met him. He they shot me separately and they shot him separately. So I never saw him, I never met him. I never saw the final thing, but I made a lot of money on it, and it
That's
was a
good.
yeah, like I can't complain. More than I ever made on Evil Dead. And it was exciting, to have this pilot. And then I would have stayed in Chicago, and every time my husband gets cranky, I remind him that the only reason I came to LA is because of him, because I really thought Chicago was the place for me to stay, but you know, you do
Now,
things.
when is the last time that you did stand up?
Oh God, that's a good question. Well, I came out to LA in 1983 and I did a few clubs, and then I got pregnant. I was married, and I just said, I became a disc jockey instead, because that was a daytime job that I could come home and have a life. Stand up, you're out till 2 or 3 in the morning, and it was just too hard. So that's kind of when I stopped. So like I'm gonna say like 1985. That was it.
How long were you a disc jockey for?
Like 3 years, 3 or 4 years, something like that. Yeah. In Santa Monica. It was just a little radio station, but I loved it. I actually was not a very good disc jockey because, as I told you earlier, we only had a few singles in our house. And I did not know music well enough to really talk about it improvisationally. So I would often use the wrong artist with the music. It was not funny to them, and they fired me. But they
No.
liked me. I produced their commercials. I did a lot of I actually wrote, cut, and edited and voiced the producers production of commercials for the radio station.
See, I just have a fondness for radio. I grew up on radio, and
Oh, you did?
yeah, just in my lifetime, we've seen the pretty much the death of the disc jockey. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was very formatted when I was doing it, and that was in 1984. Like they had already taped all the music, and I just had to talk about it, but I couldn't even do that. I mean, I think disc jockeys, a really good jockey knows the music and they know the artists, and yeah, I agree. That would be, I would like that too.
Yeah, we'll never. Just the medium, I think, is kind of dead now. You'll never see like another Casey Kasem or anything like that.
Yeah, right, right. Rick Dees, yeah.
Now, did they brought you back for the Evil Dead video game to voice Shelly, right?
Yes, they did. It was kind of cool.
What was that like? Was that your first time in a booth doing voice work?
Oh my God, no. I actually made a living. I made the most money in my career doing voiceover. I stopped doing on camera, anything on camera for 20 years because I just wanted to be able to, be here and raise my family. And voiceover was really a lot different because I could go and audition and do the job and come home at night. Whereas like there were opportunities for me to do TV show kind of things. And but you had to travel sometimes and the hours were grueling. So I had an opportunity to get into voiceover and I did a lot of promotional stuff. Like I announced for Fox Sports, for the Playboy channel, a lot of promos for all the TV stations, NBC, CBS. And I did that for 20 years. So no, when they had me come back, it was like, oh yeah, I remember this because I haven't done it now in a long time.
That's funny because I've spoken with other actors who have had experience in improv and do a lot of voiceover, and they say that having an improv background helps a lot doing voice work because it's like, give us this kind of voice. Can you do this
Right,
now? Would you say that helped you
right.
out?
Especially for games, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, for the Evil Dead game, though, they really wanted very specific stuff. It wasn't like a game that doesn't exist, and they're creating characters is different than they wanted kind of exactly how it was in the movie or similar. So there wasn't a lot of room for improv, really.
Okay. I had your bio pulled up and it said that you were the first female to announce the ESPN ESPYS.
Yes, I was. I have pictures with me and oh the tennis star. What's her name?
Serena Williams, Venus Williams.
Serena, me and
Okay.
Serena. Yeah, it was very cool. I did not like doing that, I have to say. It was live announcing for 3 hours.
Wow.
You have to be ready to say it right away. And I didn't like the pressure. I like a little more, I want some takes, okay? It was hard, but it was cool.
So Teresa, what would you say is the best acting advice that you've received and who gave it to you?
Um, well, I think it was my acting teacher. And currently I'm studying with a guy named Michael Cohen. He's doll. And I think it's just discovery. Discover while you're doing the scene, discover something that you weren't planning on. That would be my advice. It makes you more, you know, available.
Well said. You think you'll ever step back on the stage again?
I don't know about the stage. I think about, nowadays everything's on YouTube or because I think about stand up again, but you'd have to do it on YouTube. Otherwise, it would be like, you know, why not?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I definitely like to do it again, but I don't know. I have to say I don't know.
Now, I know you said earlier that you only watch movies one time. So, have you seen any good ones lately?
What did I see lately? Well, I saw a series lately. Let's see, there were some good movies this year. Um, a standout. Well, I think about A Perfect Day. I really loved it. It's a Japanese movie. Did you see it?
No, not familiar with it.
Oh, it was interesting because it explored the toilets in Tokyo, which sounds weird. I know, right? A perfect day,
Sounds up my alley.
right? Or your bathroom. No, seriously, it's very weird, but it's cool because it's a guy who's kind of given up you learn at the end that he had quite a prestigious and beautiful life, and he gave it all away to be like a cleaner for these toilets in Tokyo. And the thing that you learn is that Tokyo has the most amazing toilets for the public toilets, like public bathrooms. And they're really cool. And he seems so happy doing this simple job because he feels so connected and committed to doing the job. And it's like a 3 hour movie. It's really long.
Wow.
Yeah, you might want to look it up. It's A
I'm
Perfect Day.
I'm writing
That's
it
the name.
down. I'm writing it down.
Perfect Day. Let me know what you think.
I will. So, since we're getting near the end here, this is a question I like to ask everyone, which is, have you ever had an experience that you would consider supernatural, paranormal, or encountered an event you can't explain?
Well, that's pretty much every day of my life. I can't explain it. I just saw a coyote today walking along like he lived here. Um, I don't know if you mean like something falling out of the sky or
Whatever comes to mind, maybe an odd coincidence, or
um
never saw a ghost in your closet when you were a kid, or anything like that.
you know what? If I did, I've blocked it out because that would be way too scary. Although I have to say, here's something that's a weird coincidence. It's not really paranormal. I saw my next door neighbor's house being robbed when I was 4 years old. I was looking out the window just because I did that kind of thing. And I saw weird people in their house. And I told my mom, and they caught the guys. Is
Wow.
that is that paranormal? I don't know.
Right place, right time.
Yeah, right. That's what I would say. Coincidental.
I'm
I
sure
knew
your
I,
neighbors appreciated it.
oh my God, it was so cool. Yeah.
So, Teresa, just to put a bow on this thing here, is there anything on the horizon for you? Is there anything coming through the pipeline you'd like to share?
Well, I am doing something. I am doing a convention at a kind of a big show called Frightmare in I think it's Dallas or near Dallas in Texas at the end of May. And I'm so excited. Bruce is going to be there. Dana from Ash versus Evil Dead. Alyssa from, the Evil Dead, whatever. There's so many of them now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but it's one of the Evil Deads. You'll know who she is. Alyssa
Alyssa
should be.
Sutherland.
Yes, she's going to be there. Betsy is going to be there. Betsy Baker and me. And it's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait. So that's coming up at the end of May, Frightmare in Texas. And I don't have anything that is finalized, but I'm always applying for jobs for film. So I have something that's in the works, but no final details yet.
Awesome. Well, just before I let you go, just a little bit of serendipity that hit me today. I don't know if you know, but today, while we're chatting, is the anniversary of the theatrical release of The Evil Dead.
No.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. Blew my mind earlier.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
That is okay. You
That's
wonder
that's paranormal.
why. Now I have an experience I can conjure up. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Really? April 15th.
April 15th.
Wax Day?
Yeah, odd. And another one, while we were chatting just now, I had a email notification from Betsy Baker.
Oh, yeah. I told her I was going to be on there. I I said, "Hey Betsy, I'm going to be talking to Justin. We talk all the time." And she goes, "Oh yeah, I got an email from him too." That's not paranormal. She she's just she doesn't want me to do any more interviews than her.
Well, I have to tell her. I'll have to tell her we have to cancel.
Yeah, tell her you can't do it. Oh, because you learned everything you needed to know.
Right.
That would kill her. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, it was so fun talking to you, Justin.
Thank you, Teresa. Again, I appreciate you giving me some of your time, and you have a great rest of your day. And I'll send you that video that Sean did.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye now.
Take care. Bye.